Have you ever found yourself explaining your heart, your intentions, or even your soul to someone who just doesn't get it? Worse, someone who seems to twist everything you say into something darker, something false. We've all been there. But what if I told you that sometimes you're not just arguing with a person, you're arguing with what C.S. Lewis might call the demon in them, and that's a fight you'll never win. Let me take you on a journey, a psychological and spiritual awakening, where we'll uncover a profound truth about human relationships, self-worth, and the secret forces that lurk behind our daily interactions. Stick with me, because this isn't just about them, it's about you, your power, and your freedom. C.S. Lewis, one of the greatest thinkers of all time, once said, "You can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending." That's exactly what we're going to do here. We're going to stop trying to rewrite the past, stop explaining ourselves to people who don't deserve to understand us, and start reclaiming our power in the present. But first, let's talk about these demons in people. Lewis believed in a spiritual reality that goes far beyond the surface. In his book, The Screwtape Letters, he imagines a world where demons, literal demons, whisper into the ears of humans, manipulating their thoughts, encouraging their worst instincts, and sabotaging their relationships. But here's the kicker: these demons don't just attack the people you're arguing with, they attack you too. They feed on your need to justify yourself, your need to be understood, your need to prove you're good enough. They drag you into their game, a game you can never win. Think about it. Have you ever tried to explain yourself to someone who's already made up their mind about you? Someone who's determined to misunderstand you no matter what you say? It feels like quicksand, doesn't it? The more you struggle, the deeper you sink. That's because you're not arguing with their rational mind. You're arguing with their ego, their wounds, their fears, and maybe even something darker. Lewis understood this better than anyone. He wrote, "What you see and hear depends a good deal on where you are standing. It also depends on what sort of person you are. In other words, people don't see you as you are. They see you as they are. If they're full of bitterness, they'll see bitterness in you. If they're full of insecurity, they'll project that onto you. And if they're being influenced by something truly malevolent, well, you could be the kindest, most honest person in the world, and they'd still find a way to twist your words. So what do? Do we fight harder? Do we explain louder? Do we try to outsmart the demons in them? No. We stop. We walk away, not because we're weak, but because we're strong enough to recognize that some battles are traps. Lewis said, "Courage is not simply one of the virtues, but the form of every virtue at the testing point." Walking away takes courage. It takes courage to let go of the need to be understood. It takes courage to accept that some people will never see you for who you truly are. And it takes courage to trust that your worth isn't determined by their opinion of you. But let's be honest, walking away feels like losing, doesn't it? It feels like giving up. That's the trick, though. That's the lie the demons want you to believe. They want you to think that if you just try hard enough, you can make them see the truth. But here's the truth: you're not walking away to lose. You're walking away to win. You're walking away to reclaim your energy, your peace, your soul. Lewis once wrote, "There are far, far better things ahead than any we leave behind." Think about that. Every time you waste your breath trying to explain yourself to someone who's determined to misunderstand you, you're leaving behind those far better things. You're leaving behind opportunities, relationships, and moments of joy that could have been yours if you'd just let go of the need to fight. Now, I know what you're thinking, but what if they change? What if I'm the one who can help them see the light? And that's noble. It really is. But here's the thing: you can't change someone who doesn't want to change. You can plant seeds. You can live by example. but you can't force someone to see what they're not ready to see. As Lewis put it, you cannot make men good by law, and without good men you cannot have a good society. Change comes from within. It can't be imposed from the outside. So what do we do with all this? How do we live in a world where so many people seem to be controlled by their inner demons, their egos, their fears? We start by taking responsibility for ourselves. We start by recognizing our own demons, the ones that make us crave validation, that make us fear rejection, that make us explain ourselves to people who don't deserve an explanation. Lewis said, "Humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less, that's the key. Stop thinking about how they see you. Stop thinking about how to make them understand. Start thinking about your purpose, your values, your journey. Because at the end of the day, you're not here to win their approval. You're here to live your truth. And here's the beautiful part: when you stop explaining yourself to demons in people, something incredible happens. You free yourself. You stop feeling trapped in their misunderstandings. You stop carrying the weight of their projections. You start living for you, not for them. And in doing so, you become a lighter light that might just inspire them to face their own darkness. But even if they don't, that's okay, because your worth doesn't depend on them. It never did. When you stop explaining yourself to demons in people, you step into a kind of freedom that most people never experience. It's a freedom rooted in understanding that not every battle is yours to fight, and not every opinion is yours to fix. And here's the most powerful insight: when you reclaim your energy from those futile conversations, you begin to notice something extraordinary. You have more energy for the things that truly matter. C.S. Lewis wrote, "The homemaker has the ultimate career. All other careers exist for one purpose only, and that is to support the ultimate career." Now, what does this mean in our context? It's not just about homemaking in the literal sense. It's about creating a home within yourself, a place of peace, purpose, and strength. When you stop justifying yourself to people who are unable or unwilling to see you, you begin to build that inner sanctuary. You stop letting their chaos invade your space. But let's be real, this is easier said than done. Walking away from conflict feels unnatural. We're wired to seek connection, to explain ourselves, to make others see our perspective. It's human nature. But here's the harsh truth: not everyone is ready for connection. Some people are so consumed by their own pain, their own ego, or their own demons that they can't meet you where you are. Lewis understood this deeply. He said, "No man knows how bad he is till he has tried very hard to be good. Sometimes people's hostility toward you isn't even about you. It's about their internal struggle with their own darkness." Think about it. When was the last time you felt like you had to defend yourself to someone? Maybe it was a family member, a friend, or even a stranger online. What you probably didn't realize in the moment is that their attack on you was likely a reflection of their own inner turmoil. Maybe they saw something in you that they couldn't face in themselves. Maybe your strength highlighted their insecurity. Maybe your honesty threatened their lies. Whatever the reason, their reaction wasn't about you, it was about them. Lewis said, "To be a Christian means to forgive the inexcusable, because God has forgiven the inexcusable in you now, whether or not you're religious." There's a profound lesson here. Forgiveness isn't about excusing bad behavior. It's about freeing yourself from the burden of resentment. It's about recognizing that holding on to anger only keeps you chained to the very people who hurt you. And the same goes for the need to explain yourself. When you stop trying to make them understand, you're not just letting them go, you're letting yourself go. Here's a practical way to do this. The next time you feel the urge to explain yourself to someone, pause. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, am I doing this to connect? Or am I doing this to prove something? If it's about proving something, stop. Because proving yourself is a trap. It's a game you'll never win. Why? Because the kind of person who demands an explanation from you is often the same kind of person who will never accept it. They're not looking for understanding, they're looking for control. Lewis had a way of cutting through the noise and getting to the heart of things. He wrote, "When you are behaving as if you loved someone, you will presently come to love him. What this means is that our actions shape our emotions. If you constantly act like you need someone's approval, you'll start to believe you need it. But if you act like you're already whole, if you walk away from toxic conversations, if you stop explaining yourself to those who don't deserve it, you'll start to feel whole. You'll start to embody the strength and self-respect you've been craving. But let's address the elephant in the room. What if the person you're dealing with is someone you can't just walk away from? Maybe it's a parent, a sibling, a spouse, or a boss. In those cases, the solution isn't about physical distance, it's about emotional boundaries. Lewis said, "Love is not an affectionate feeling, but a steady wish for the loved person's ultimate good, as far as it can be obtained." Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for someone is to stop engaging in their chaos. Because when you refuse to play their game, you're not just protecting yourself, you're giving them a chance to confront their own demons. And here's the thing, when you set those boundaries, you'll face resistance. The demons in people don't like to lose their power. They'll accuse you of being cold, selfish, or unloving. But remember this, true love doesn't mean sacrificing your peace to soothe someone else's pain. True love means standing firm in your own truth, even when it's hard. Lewis wrote, "Integrity is doing the right thing, even when no one is watching, and sometimes the right thing is walking away. Not because you don't care, but because you care too much to let yourself be consumed by their darkness." Here's an analogy that might help. Imagine you're in a lifeboat and someone is drowning. You want to save them, but if you lean too far out of the boat, they'll pull you under. Sometimes, the best way to help someone is to stay in the boat, to stay grounded, to stay strong, to take care of yourself. Because you can't save anyone if you're drowning too. Now, I want you to think about your own life. Who are the people you've been explaining yourself to? Who are the people who make you feel small, misunderstood, or unworthy? And here's the harder question, why are you still engaging with them? What part of you still believes you need their approval? Lewis said, "We are what we believe we are. If you believe you're worthy, you won't waste your time trying to convince someone else of it. If you believe you're strong, you won't let their opinions weaken you. If you believe you're whole, you won't let their misunderstandings fragment you." Here's the challenge I want to leave you with the next time you feel the urge to explain yourself. Stop. Instead, remind yourself of who you are. Remind yourself that your worth isn't up for debate. Remind yourself that you don't need their understanding to be at peace, because at the end of the day, their demons are not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to protect your light, your peace, your soul. And when you do that, you don't just free yourself, you become an example for others. You show them what it looks like to live with strength, courage, and integrity. When you fully embrace the idea of not explaining yourself to the demons in people, you step into a rare kind of power. It's not the loud, aggressive power of trying to dominate or prove a point. It's the quiet, unshakable power of someone who knows who they are and doesn't need anyone else to validate that. And here's the beautiful paradox: when you stop chasing validation, you often end up receiving respect. Why? Because people can sense when you're operating from a place of strength rather than insecurity. C.S. Lewis touched on this dynamic in his reflections on pride and humility. He wrote, "A proud man is always looking down on things and people, and of course, as long as you are looking down, you cannot see something that is above you. The people who demand explanations from you, who question your worth, twist your words, or doubt your intentions are often trapped in this cycle of pride. They're looking down on you because it makes them feel bigger. But here's the thing, their pride isn't your problem. It's theirs. When you engage with them, when you try to defend yourself, argue with them, or prove your value, you're actually stepping into their game. You're validating their need to look down on you, even if you don't realize it. But when you stop engaging, when you refuse to play their game, something remarkable happens. You force them to face themselves. Lewis said, "The human spirit will not even begin to try to surrender self as long as all seems to be well with it." In other words, as long as people feel comfortable in their pride, ego, or negativity, they have no reason to change. But when you stop feeding their false sense of superiority, when you stop explaining, justifying, or apologizing for who you are, you create a disruption. You take away the fuel for their fire, and in that silence they're left with nothing but their own reflection. Now, let's talk about the deeper reason why explaining yourself to the wrong people is so harmful. It's not just about wasting time or energy, it's about what it does to your sense of self. Every time you explain yourself to someone who's determined to misunderstand you, you're subtly sending yourself a message: maybe I do need their approval. Maybe I do need to justify myself. Maybe I'm not enough as I am. Lewis wrote, "We are not necessarily doubting that God will do the best for us. We are wondering how painful the best will turn out to be replace God with life or truth, and the point still stands." When we explain ourselves to people who question our worth, we're often doing so out of fear of rejection, fear of being misunderstood, fear of being alone. But here's the hard truth: the pain of walking away from toxic conversations is far less than the pain of staying in them. The best for you, your peace, your freedom, your growth might feel painful at first, but it's worth it. And let's not forget, the demons in people aren't always external. Sometimes they're internal. Sometimes the voice demanding explanations isn't coming from someone else, it's coming from within you. That inner critic, that voice of self-doubt, can be just as relentless as any external adversary. Lewis understood this struggle intimately. He wrote, "There is someone I love, even though I don't approve of what he does. There is someone I accept, though some of his thoughts and actions revolt me. There is someone I forgive, though he hurts the people I love the most. That person is myself." Think about that. How often do we explain ourselves to the demons in our own minds? How often do we replay arguments, justify our choices, or question our worth long after the moment has passed? When you stop explaining yourself to others, you also have to learn to stop explaining yourself to yourself. You have to silence that inner critic that tells you you're not good enough, that you need to do more, that you need to be more. So how do we do this? How do we silence both the external and internal voices that demand explanations? Lewis gives us a clue when he says, "Look for yourself, and you will find in the long run only hatred, loneliness, despair, rage, ruin, and decay. But look for Christ or truth or purpose, and you will find him, and with him everything else thrown in." In other words, stop looking outward for validation and inward for justification. Instead, look upward or forward towards something greater than yourself. This is where purpose comes in. When you're deeply rooted in your purpose, the need to explain yourself fades away. You realize that your life isn't about convincing others of your worth, it's about living your truth. Lewis wrote, "The task of the modern educator is not to cut down jungles, but to irrigate deserts." Apply this to your own life. Your job isn't to cut down the jungle of other people's misunderstandings. Your job is to irrigate the desert of your own soul, to nurture your inner world until it overflows with peace, clarity, and strength. And here's the practical takeaway: every time you're tempted to explain yourself, ask yourself this question: does this serve my purpose? If the answer is no, let it go. Walk away. Redirect your energy towards something that matters. Because here's the ultimate truth: the demons in people and in yourself thrive on distraction. They want you to waste your time, your energy, your spirit on things that don't matter. They want you to get caught up in petty arguments, endless justifications, and pointless battles. But when you choose to focus on your purpose, your values, and your growth, you starve those demons. You take away their power. Lewis captured this beautifully when he wrote, "You are never too old to set another goal or to dream a new dream." Every time you choose to stop explaining yourself to the wrong people, you're setting a new goal. You're dreaming a new dream. You're choosing to live for something higher, something deeper, something real. And that's the ultimate victory, not over them, but over yourself. Because at the end of the day, the only person you need to explain yourself to is the person you're becoming. And when you stop explaining, you start becoming. So now I'll ask you, will you take this lesson to heart? Will you stop explaining yourself to demons in people? Or will you keep letting them steal your peace, distract you from your purpose, and dim your light? The choice is yours.